Curiosities about the Moon. Did you know that our Moon is the fifth largest in the solar system? Why is it simply called Moon? The Earth's moon, the only place beyond Earth that man has trodden on, is the fifth largest moon in the solar system and the brightest and largest object in our night sky. The Moon is not round. The Moon is not round, or spherical, but is egg-shaped. If you look closely at our satellite, you will see that one of the small ends is pointing directly at you. And the center of mass of the Moon is not in the geometrical center of the satellite, it is about 2 kilometers outside the center. Composition of the surface. The Moon is rocky. Its surface is dotted with craters formed by asteroid impacts millions of years ago. The average composition of the lunar surface is approximately 43% oxygen, 20% silicon, 19% magnesium, 10% iron, 3% calcium, 3% aluminum, 0.42% chromium, 0.18% titanium and 0.12% manganese. Trees of the Moon. More than 400 trees on Earth came from the Moon. How is it possible? In 1971, the astronaut of Apollo 14, the 8th manned mission of the Apollo program, Stuart Roosa took with him a large amount of seeds and, while experts Alan Shepard and Edgar Mitchell were busy walking the surface, Roosa kept his seeds. Later, these seeds returned to Earth and germinated, planting in several locations throughout the United States, as part of the celebrations for the bicentennial of the independence of the United States. Hence they came to be called the trees of the Moon. Most of them grow strong and healthy. The seeds were provided by the U.S. Forest Service and the trip to the Moon did not cause any change in the seeds. On the Moon, Levitan powder particles. The dust particles of the Moon levitate and, until now, it was not known why. According to a study published by NASA in 2017, the particular properties of moon dust combined with UV radiation, or with the sun's plasma, would be responsible for these to float in the form of individual particles or clumps of dust. The reaction of emission and reabsorption of electrons inside microcavities formed between the various particles, could generate large electric charges and intense repulsion forces that would explain this curious phenomenon. Other moons. Our Moon does not have other own moons or rings. What we do appreciate is a bright whitish or milky white halo that sometimes surrounds the Moon. Why is it produced? Due to the refraction of the light of the Moon that crosses a thin layer of ice crystals high in the atmosphere. Lunar eclipses. During eclipses, the Moon, Earth and Sun are in a straight line, or almost. A lunar eclipse takes place when the Earth is directly or almost directly between the Sun and the Moon, and the shadow of the Earth falls on the Moon. The next lunar eclipses will be, on January 31, 2018, we will be able to enjoy a fantastic total lunar eclipse, and on July 27, 2018. The orbit of the Moon. The orbit of the Moon around the Earth is an oval, not a circle as we have discussed, so the distance between the center of the Earth and the center of the Moon vary along each orbit. In the perigee, that is, when the Moon is closest to the Earth, that distance is 363,300 kilometers. At apogee, that is, the farthest position, the distance is 405,500 kilometers. Hence, when the full Moon rises while it is in apogee, the disk we see is 14% larger and 30% brighter than other full moons. It is a supermoon. However, it is an optical illusion that makes it appear larger near the horizon. How many people have stepped on the surface of the Moon? Only 12 people have walked on the surface of the Moon. The first was Neil Armstrong in 1969 as part of the Apollo 11 mission, and the last was Eugene Cernan in 1972 in the Apollo 17 mission. Cernan died on January 16, 2017. A total of 12 men of American nationality have stepped on the Moon. Since 1972, all lunar missions have been unmanned spacecraft. The gravity of the Moon. The Moon is approximately 27% the size of Earth and is much less massive. With it, the gravity in the Moon is of hardly 1/6 of the one of the Earth. Hence, if you throw a rock on the Moon, it falls more slowly. As an example, if you weigh 68 kilograms on Earth, you would weigh a little more than 11 kilograms on the Moon. Lightweight, right? Brush strokes on the Moon. The Moon is the celestial object easier to find in the night sky, disappearing from our sight just a few nights. The Moon takes 27.3 days to rotate on its axis and to orbit the Earth. Although it is a satellite of Earth, the Moon, with a diameter of approximately 3,475 kilometers, is larger than Pluto. Due to its size, it has a great effect on the planet. Internal structure. It is very probable that the nucleus of the Moon is very small, barely 1 to 2% of the mass of the satellite and approximately 680 kilometers wide. It is thought to be mainly composed of iron, but it can also contain large amounts of sulfur and other elements. Its 1,330 kilometers thick rock layer is made up of dense rocks rich in iron and magnesium. The bark at the top is about 70 kilometers deep and the outermost region is fractured and mixed because of all the large impacts the Moon has received. Popular belief about the Moon and madness. This popular belief that in the phase of the full moon physiological changes take place in the human being that lead to a state of madness, has no scientific basis. A team of researchers from Laval University in Quebec, Canada, examined the relationship between lunar phases and the number of patients who come to the emergency room with psychological problems. They investigated panic attacks, anxiety and mood disorders or suicidal thoughts by contrasting them with lunar calendars. The conclusion is that the full moon has nothing to do with our psychological alteration. Goodbye to the myth the Moon does not increase the madness. The atmosphere of the Moon. The Moon has a very thin atmosphere, so a layer of dust or a trace can remain undisturbed for centuries. And with this delicate atmosphere, the heat does not stay close to the surface, hence the temperatures vary enormously. Daytime temperatures on the sunny side of the Moon reach 134 degrees Celsius, on the dark side, we will have ice cream minus 153 degrees Celsius. There are 2 ships on the Moon. Starry, yes. NASA decided on December 17, 2012 to intentionally crash 2 space probes against the Moon. These were 2 twin probes from the Gravity Recovery and Interior Laboratory mission, GRAIL, designed to produce a gravity map of our satellite. When not having more fuel to continue their scientific investigations, they ended up embedded against a mountain of the North Pole of the Moon. The scars of the satellite. The crater-filled surface of the Moon is the result of the intense impact of space rocks in the past, between 4.1 billion and 3.8 billion years ago. These scars, the craters, have not been eroded practically since then for 2 main reasons. The Moon is not geologically very active and, as we have said before, without atmosphere there is no wind or rain, so there is very little surface erosion. The Moon is dusty and abrasive. The truth is that a walk on the surface of the Moon is not attractive to start. The dust that we encounter on the lunar surface is an abrasive material, sticky and, as you can imagine, nothing healthy to breathe. These characteristics make the dust of the Moon a dangerous material, at the same time annoying both for the equipment and for the costumes and the survival of the potential astronauts. Dust sticks to everything. The origin of the name. If there are so many moons, why is ours also called Luna? Until Galileo Galilei did not discover in 1610 4 moons that orbited Jupiter, humanity thought that ours was the only one. Although already in 1609 Thomas Harriot was the first person to use a telescope aimed at the sky and create the first maps of the Moon. His name is the product of the Latin voice Luna employed by the Romans and Artemis and then Selene, by the Greeks. This classical origin of the Latin word moon was a contraction of lucina, which like lux, light, came from the Luc Indo-European root. Thus, originally, the voice moon would mean the luminous one, the one that illuminates. How was the moon formed? The main theory of the origin of the moon is that it probably formed after a body the size of Mars collided with Earth about 4.5 billion years ago. The resulting debris from Earth and the object that impacted accumulated to form our natural satellite 384,000 kilometers away. Why does the moon always show us the same side? A long time ago, the Earth's gravitational effects slowed down the rotation of the moon on its axis. Once the rotation of the moon was reduced enough to coincide with its orbital period, the time it takes for the moon to circle the Earth, the effect stabilized. It is not a strange behavior, because many of the moons around other planets behave similarly. The moon moves away from the Earth. Our satellite moves away from Earth at a rate of 3.8 centimeters per year. How do we have this data accuracy? Thanks to the astronauts and the ships that managed to reach the moon in the past, they left 5 reflectors on the surface. Thus, by throwing a laser pulse towards these mirrors from Earth, it bounces and returns to us with the data. The precision is 1 millimeter. And why is it moving away from Earth? Because it accelerates in its orbit, because of the effects it causes on the terrestrial oceans.